Hello everyone and welcome to this video. What I'm going to be doing here is making a series of videos on interior only dungeons, and this is the first of that series. So we're focusing on just the basic foundation, so in other words the halls and the rooms, and more specifically halls and rooms that are shaped like the characters I, L, T, and X respectively. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If we take a look at this in top view, hall I looks like the letter I. Hall L looks like an L. T, although turned sideways, looks like a T. The orientation of this is off because I've actually rotated that. And then Hall X looks like an X if you view it diagonally. Same thing with the rooms. Of course, this doesn't really look like an I, but if you take a look at where the connector pieces are, these are the open areas of the room. Those definitely are in the orientation of the I, which is the same as this over here. The L, again, adjacent walls with openings is a room L, and then we have room T, a T section, and then the room X. And we have one more piece called the cap, which is basically a room with only one entrance. So these 9 tiles are going to be the focus of this video. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do is create a cube. So Shift A, add mesh, cube. We want this cube to be 4 by 4 by 4. Let's go to front view. That's the number 1 on the numeric keypad. Remember, everything that we're going to be doing is in orthographic view. So if you're not already in orthographic, you can get yourself there by pushing this button. So this is perspective, this is orthographic. You can see orthographic over here, or you can hit the numpad 5. That will get you there as well. Let's go into edit mode. We can get there by hitting tab. Make sure that everything is selected. Back to front view. And scale this by 2. That'll make it a 4 by 4 by 4 cube. Another thing we want to do is grab this and put it even with that red line, or technically the red and the green line. So we want this cube to be on the surface of the world space. Back to front view, G for grab, Z to move it along the Z axis, hold it on control to take advantage of increment snapping, and then just snap it up so that the bottom is flush even with that red line. Now this is only going to work if you have your increment snapping turned on. Okay? So now that this is up there, we're ready to start making hallways and rooms. So let's go ahead and continue. We're going to use face selection for most of this. So I'm going to choose that over here. Let's go to top view. That's the number 7 on the numeric keypad. And what I want to do is I want to select this face over here and this face down here. Of course, I can't do this easily from top view, but I can roll my mouse over here like this and just select that. And then what I want to do is extrude this 4 units out like that and hit enter. And then I'm going to roll my mouse this way, select that face, and then basically do the same thing. E4, enter. So this is a hallway that extrudes north and south. We call this a hall I. Now before I do anything else, I probably should make a template. Okay, so let me go ahead and undo, Control Z and Control Z again. So we have just this cube. This would be a good place to sort of branch off. So what I want to do is Shift D and make my 4 hallway units, okay? We're going to need another one for rooms later, so I'm just going to Shift D again. So let's go ahead and hide all of this and just focus on one of these. So back to top view. We'll repeat those steps again. Select that face, E4, enter, and then we can roll around and select the opposite face, E4, enter. So again, this is our hall. The only thing that I want to add is the connector. So at the end of the hall, where the doorway actually fits, we want to make a section of corridor or a connector piece that connects with other rooms or hallways. And that piece is going to be a depth of 1. So instead of extruding this 4, we're going to extrude it 1. So select one of these, hit E for extrude, and then the number 1 to extrude 1 unit, and then hit enter. We'll do the same thing on the other side. E1, enter. And then finally, we can just delete these 2 faces here. So select them both and hit delete faces. So this is a good start. This is our hallway I. So let's go ahead and name that. Back to object mode here. We'll just call this hall.capital letter I. And I always name the object data block the same thing. So let's just go ahead and hide this. Go back to object mode and hide that and move on to the next one. So this is going to be our hall L. Back to edit mode. We'll select this face, E4, enter. And then we want this face over here, E4, enter. And if you look at this in top view, it looks like the capital letter L. Well, sort of. Back to object mode. We'll call this hall.L. And again, I'm going to name the object data block the same thing. Back to object mode. We'll go ahead and hide this and move on to the next one. This is going to be hall T. Edit mode. I'm going to select this face, E4, enter. Select this one, E4, enter. I forgot something on hall L. I'm going to have to go back. E4, enter. What I forgot to do was extrude it one more unit. So E1, enter. Do the same thing over here. E1. And finally over here, E1, enter. And then we'll select these three faces and delete them. And that's our hall T. So let's go ahead and name that hall.T. All right, so now we have that finished. Let's go back for a minute. I want to go back to hall I. I forgot to put these connector pieces on here. So E1, enter. Let's delete that face. And then do the same thing over here. E1, enter, and then delete the face. So that's all we really needed to do. Let's go ahead and hide that. And we'll move on to hall X. So top view, edit mode. We'll select one of these faces, E4, and then I'll just follow that up with E1, and then we'll delete the face. And do the same thing over here, E4, E1, delete the face. You're probably wondering, why don't I just extrude it 5? Well, we need this edge loop here. We want all of our individual units to be 4x4x4, and we want the connectors to be 4x4x1. That's the reason why we don't delete that. So this is hall X. That means we're going to have 4 connectors on the north, south, east, and west. So again, E4, E1, and then delete the face, and then one more, E4, E1, enter, and then delete that face. Let's go ahead and name it. So hall.X. What you can do too, if you don't want to type it twice, is just double click it, Control C, and then double click down here and Control V. Now we have one more cube that we left. That's going to be our first room. Let's go ahead and shape our first room, and then we'll use that as a template and make multiple copies of that. So over here in edit mode, we'll start by extruding one of these out. So E4. I'm not going to add the connector right now. We're going to save that for the individual rooms. Select the opposite side, E4, enter. We're going to select these 3. So I'm selecting the first one, control clicking on the last one, and that basically selects the shortest path between. And what we want to do is extrude that out by 4. And then we'll swing around to the other side, left click, control, left click, and then E4 again. Now we have a nice square room here that we can use as a template. So let's go back to object mode and think about how many rooms that we're going to create. I want to create one room that has only one entrance. We're going to call that room cap. And then we're going to create 4 more rooms, and we're going to follow the same naming conventions as the hall. So we'll have a room I, a room L, a room T, and a room X. So we need 5 of these. We've got one already. Shift D will make the second one. Right click, Shift D again. That's 3, 4, and 5. Let's hide all but one and focus on the cap room first. So let's go to top view. I want the room opening to be over here. Let's go into edit mode. So let's go ahead and select that face right there. You can do this in top view. It doesn't matter if you're in top view or not. We're going to hit extrude, not 4, because this is a connector piece. We're going to extrude this by 1 and then hit enter. And then all we need to do is just delete that face. And this room is pretty much all set. We just need to name it. So this is called room.cap. Of course, we're going to name the object data block the same thing. So the next thing, we're going to make a room I. So we'll select one of these unused cubes, go into edit mode, and we're going to select this one. Again, extrude by 1, hit enter, and then delete the face. Same thing over here. E1, enter, X, delete face. We're all done with this. We just need to name it. So room.I. Go back to object mode. Hide this. Show another one. This will be room L. So let's figure out where to put our opening. So E1, enter. We can delete that face. And then we're going to put another one over here. E1, enter, and delete that face. Let's go ahead and name it. Now from top view, it doesn't really look like an L, but the L formation definitely follows these openings or these connector pieces. All right, room T is going to be next. So we're going to select the bottom this time instead of the top because we want this to be a T. This is going to come out this way, and then we're going to have two out like that. So E1, enter, and then delete the face like that. Same thing over here. So E1, enter, X, and then delete face. Same thing, E1, X, delete face. That's pretty much it. That's our room T. So let's go back to object mode and call this room.T. All right, and hide that, and we'll move on to the last one. This is going to be room.X. So one on each side. A quicker way to do this would be to select all of these and then use Alt-E and extrude individual faces and then choose the number 1, and that will make them all go out at the same time, and then just delete all those faces. Let's go back to object mode and name this room.X. And you'll notice that because of my naming conventions, you don't even have to see what's going on over here. You can tell what each one of these rooms is and what it looks like just by that naming convention alone. Let's go and add a little bit more detail to this. We've got a little time here. So what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of heightened ceiling in the middle, not perfectly lined up with the edges, but sort of inset into the geometry of the room. And then finally, we're going to invert these so that all the faces are on the inside. So that if you were standing inside of this thing, you would see faces. Right now, you can see through it, and we don't want that. So we want to invert this. By the way, if your Blender doesn't show a transparent face here, you can make it do so. I'm in solid shading right now. You can make it do that by turning on backface culling in your solid viewport shading. So if backface culling wasn't turned on, it would look like this. And that would be very confusing. When you brought this into Unity, you'd be a little confused why you don't see any faces. So turn on your backface culling so you can see which side is the right side. And then ultimately what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to flip the faces. So that's done like this. Select all, shift in, and then flip it around in the opposite direction. So now you're looking at the faces on the inside. However, we're not quite ready to do that just yet, so I'm going to save that a little bit later on in this video. So what we're focusing on right now is making sort of cathedral ceilings, and what I want to do with these is I want to tuck things up into the ceiling. Things like pipes. That's a really good thing to sort of tuck up and out of the way in the side of a ceiling. Also, I want to make the area of the room or the hallway heightened in the middle to clearly demonstrate which part is the room and which part is the connector, okay? So let's start with the hall eye. Go into edit mode, top view, and select only the square faces. So that's these faces right here. Nothing else, just the ones on the top. And what we want to do is we want to inset these. That's the letter I. And if you look at the thickness, I want this to be about here. So that's about 0.5. So I can just type 0.5 on the numeric keypad and then follow that up by hitting enter. Let's go ahead and collapse that for now. So following that same formula on all of these rooms, we can get all of these shapes looking exactly the same. So we inset by 0.5 and we're going to extrude this by 1 and then hit enter. We can do that to all of these rooms and halls. From the inside of this thing, it'll look pretty cool. So let's move on to Hall L. We'll follow the same exact rules. Back into tab. We'll select just these top squares. I, 0.5, and then E1, enter. I'm going to do this quickly so that we can get through it. So Hall T, edit mode. Select just the top squares. Make sure you don't select anything else. I to inset, and then 0.5, and then E to extrude by 1 unit, and then hit enter. Move on. So object mode, select this, go into edit mode. We'll select these. Again, I 0.5, enter, E1, enter, and then we'll just move on. We're going to room cap next. So all of these squares here, I 0.5, E1, enter, And moving right along. We got 4 more to go. Room I. Let's do this from top view. It'll be a little easier. So select those. I.5, E1, enter. I know you can't see it from this view, but if you've done this a few times, you'll learn to trust that it actually worked. And we'll just move on to the next one. I forgot to turn my edit mode off, so select that, go back into edit mode, and then again I.5, and then E1, enter, and we're ready to move on. So object mode, hide, unhide, select, go back into edit mode, select those faces, I.5, E1, enter, back to object mode, and last one, thank God, select this, I.5, E1, enter, and that's it. Now we can flip all of these inside out. So let's do this all at once. We can actually show all of these and then select all of them. Go into multi-object editing. So with all of that selected, hit tab and then select all. Shift N to recalculate normals and then change it to inside instead of outside. We can collapse that. Go back to object mode. I'm going to hide all but one of these and just take a look at it. So if you want to fly into that and sort of walk around, here's how you can do that. Go to View, Navigation, Walk Navigation. Now we're sort of in a fly mode right now. You can use WASD. You can use Shift to go faster. Fly down into this like this and then hit Tab. That'll turn gravity on. Now you can actually walk around inside of this thing and you can take a look around and see what it looks like. Right click or hit escape to get out of that mode, and we'll check out a couple of these. So Hall I, navigation, walk. I'm holding in on shift and hitting W and then tab to drop down. And that's what this piece looks like. And I'll take a look at one of the rooms here. Let's take a look at room L next. So again, view, navigation, walk. I'm using Shift W to fly into it and then tab to drop down on the floor. Now these go out into these void spaces. Let me demonstrate that before we end this video here. Back to top view. That's the number 7 on the numeric keypad. Let's go ahead and unhide everything. And what I want to do is I want to configure this so that it looks kind of like a dungeon, okay? And we're going to put everything back when we're all done, but for now we're just going to move things around. Make sure that this is on increment snapping. We're going to grab these one at a time using G, again in top orthographic view. G for grab, holding on control to take advantage of the increment snapping and snap that so it's even with one of these connector pieces. Now, technically it's connected to that one, but it's also connected to a lot of these others. So what I want to do is just select all of those, G, and just kind of snap those out of the way for right now, holding in on control so that they stay on grid, okay? So now let's go to the next one here. I'd like to put some rooms in here as well. So maybe we can move this out of the way and just grab one of these rooms, like room I. So G, snap that end to end. Select that, G, snap that together. And let's add another room over here. How about a room L? So G. Now we're going to have to rotate this one. So holding on control so we can rotate that exactly -90 degrees. And then G and snap that into place. Let's do another hall. Let's do a hall T this time. So we're going to grab that and snap it over here. Except I want to rotate this as well. So again, holding it on control to snap. And then using G to snap that together. Let's grab another room. Let's use room cap. So I'm going to grab this, snap it over here. We're going to rotate this around in the opposite direction. Again, holding it on control to snap. All right, let's grab another room over here. So this is going to be room T this time. So G, and we'll snap this over here. Let's grab room X. So we'll snap this over here. And what do we got left here? We got hall X, which I can snap right there. Okay, so now we have some kind of room configuration here. Let's do our little fly through again. So view, navigation. We're not using fly navigation. Use walk navigation and WASD. Get close, get inside the room, and then hit tab to fall down. Tab is turning gravity on and off. And now we can actually walk through this. And this is what our dungeon looks like so far. Now you can see these border edges, like that black line right there. That's because of the way I've got this configured. But if I didn't have it configured that way, you would not see that line. I'll show you that in just a moment. So right now, everything fits together like a glove. It's all really nice. These open spaces need to be covered. We're going to do that later on in this series. But for now, we have modular dungeons, and this is kind of cool. Right-click or escape to get out of that walk mode. And like I said, I can show you what that looks like without those lines. Over here, we can turn those lines off. That's called outline. And if I turn it on, you can see over here, that's the black line right there. And if I turn it off, that line disappears. So now I can actually fly down in there again using walk navigation. Just fly down, hit tab to fall to the floor. Now you don't see those black lines anymore. This is more what it will look like in Unity. Now, this is a lot of information, and I think you guys should go in here and practice this. Next week, I'm going to be adding to this. We're going to extend upon this and make more interesting dungeons. If you want to put all of this stuff back, I'll go ahead and select all. So we've relocated a lot of these, and we've also rotated these. So to restore the rotations and location information, we can use Alt-G for the location and Alt-R to reset the rotations. So if you take a look at over here, for example, on this piece right here, this is the Object Properties tab. You can see the location has been moved 28 meters, right? It hasn't been rotated at all. This one over here has been moved 28 and 14, no rotations. This one over here has been rotated 90 degrees, and it's been moved 14 and negative 14. So if I were to use those commands, Alt-G will put these back to 0. This is still on rotation Z90. And Alt-R will restore the rotation information. So in other words, if I select all and I hit Alt-G and then Alt-R, I'll restore all of the rotation and all of the location information back to zeros. And now everything's back in the middle of the world space where it should be, okay? And that's where I'm going to leave us right now. We now have modular dungeon pieces. We can import these into Unity as an FBX file. We can save them as individual prefabs. We can snap them together, and we can actually walk around inside of this dungeon. So go ahead and try that for yourself, and then watch for the next video next week. Now don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. You guys know the routine. Now, if you want to just download this and you don't want to bother making this, you can actually do that. All you really need to do is become a supporter on Patreon, and any of the video content that you see me doing here on YouTube, I'm going to make sure that all of my Patreon supporters get access to all of those files. So over time, there's going to be lots and lots of models inside of that depository. So it's definitely something to watch out for if you're interested in supporting what I do. Check out the information in the description down below. And for now, I'm just going to leave you like that. You guys, good luck with this. Have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.